Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here. I'm particularly excited to be here. I get to see Tengku Mahmud again. I interviewed him about 20 years ago, and it's amazing to see him here again. So we have here a very distinguished panelists here, and I would like to invite them up. First, because I see Debbie Stothard from outside Myanmar or Burma. Next, I would like to invite Ambassador Nelson Santos of Timor-Leste. I would like to invite Tengku Mahmud Malik. And lastly, from Mindanao, I would like to invite Imam Ebra Moksir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is our distinguished panel, and I'll just give a very quick introduction. Ambassador Nelson Santos is the principal advisor for the President of the Republic of Democratic Timor-Leste on international relations. And sitting next to him is Tengku Malik Mahmud. He is the Wali of Nangro Aceh, and he's also the former Prime Minister of the Aceh Free Movement. Thirdly, from Mindanao, we have Imam Ibra Moksir. He is the National President of Imam Council of the Philippines. And lastly, we have Debbie Stothard. She's the founder of ASEAN Myanmar, and she's based in Malaysia. No, Thailand. Sorry, you're based in Thailand. Okay. So before we begin, I'd just like to make some quick opening remarks on the session that we have here. So this session is themed Harnessing Southeast Asia's Greatest Resources, Reconciliation, and Southeast Asia's Lesson for a Troubled World. So as a journalist, when I first covered Aceh, that's when I first met Tengku Mahmud. In 2005, Aceh signed a peace agreement. And I remember following the signing of the peace agreement, it did bring peace to Aceh. And I remember going to a village, and I interviewed this villager who lost a son in the conflict. And when I asked him, do you want to seek justice or compensation? And he said no. He said, and I said, why? And he said, because for the first time in my life, I have peace, and there is so much that we can do with peace. It is priceless. And if I were to seek justice for my son, it still won't bring him back. And so he rather just accept the peace and not seek revenge or punishment, so that he can help build Aceh. And then secondly, when I went to Siem Reap, there was a time when I was asking some people what happened to the Khmer Rouge after the peace agreement. And they said that they just went back to their homes. And he told me that actually all of us know where they live, but they never took any revenge because, and they are Buddhists, they don't believe in killing. And the third example I just want to quickly point out is when I went to Mindanao end of 2017, and I spoke with Moro Islamic Liberation Front chairman Murad Ibrahim. So at that time when I was there, there was a huge siege in Marawi city. ISIS laid siege to Marawi city for like 5 months. Over 1,000 people were killed. And so the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, despite being an armed insurgency that fought the Manila government for so many years, they worked together with the armed forces to put out ISIS. So what I'm trying to say is that there is so much that we can learn from Southeast Asia because of the religious beliefs, because of the cultural values, because of the family values, people from conflict-riven places have been able to forgive, have been able to move past the violence and the horrors of the past to rebuild a new society. And I do not think that people realize this enough. And so I'm very honored and excited to have this amazing panel to talk about this, that people can actually forgive the unforgivable. So to start off, I would like to start off with Ambassador Nelson. When Timor-Leste first voted to leave Jakarta, we all know that violence broke out. But today, we see that Indonesia, as you mentioned, as you told me earlier, that Indonesia is the #1 supporter for Timor-Leste's acceptance as a member of ASEAN, and Indonesia is also your #1 trading partner. So can you please share with us how was the reconciliation process? How is Timor-Leste and Indonesia good friends today?
Hello. The question, thank you so much for the question. The question seems to be simple, but it's quite complex. For us to answer that, we have to also look at the context of our history, our history. In fact, the independence of Timor-Leste is the finest hour of international cooperation, regional cooperations, and all that. For Timor-Leste, we were under the Portuguese for 500 years. And in between, we had the Japanese and the Australian for 3 years, and which caused roughly about 40 to 60,000 victims. The Portuguese returned to Timor-Leste, and in the 60s, because of the African countries were gaining independence, Timor-Leste came under the C24 committee at the UN. And that gave us the legal base for our claim of self-determination. And obviously that in the 75, when Portugal had relinquished its colony, all of the colonies had independence except for Timor-Leste. And they simply abandoned Timor-Leste. They simply abandoned. And we declared our unilateral independence. But the leadership at that time did not demonize the Portuguese. Insisted with the Portuguese that they should come back to Timor-Leste to finish the colonial, the independence process. And that is why Portugal was the country who negotiated all the legal agreements with Indonesia. We had a legal base for our claim. That is why we differ our struggle with Aceh, with Irian Jaya, and all the different resistance groups around the world. The Indonesians landed. And the legal basis also gave us the notion of wrong and right. So the Indonesians landed in Timor about 50 years ago. We're going to celebrate 50 years. And we had a traumatic 24 years experience. A third of the population was killed. Imagine 3 in 10 people were killed. So imagine those that are the victims of this whole process. And came 1999, we had the referendum, and the people opted for independence. Now, first, the Portuguese, what we should demonize them, we did not. We said, come back and do your job. Our leadership distinguished clearly at the time that what Indonesians doing in this Timor was something against the international law. So it's between wrong and right. It's nothing to do with the people of Indonesia. It has to do with the regime of Suharto regime, which is the people of Indonesia are also victim of this regime. And that is why our students, when they come to Indonesia, or even in Timor, they mingle with Indonesians. A lot of Indonesian organizations help our students in Indonesia. A lot of Indonesian students took part with in our resistance. So in that sense of not demonizing, distinguishing between the wrong and right, and that the people are also the victim, gave us a very good dividend. It played on our part. And also the leadership was very clear, and everybody knew that independence had a cost. that we have to give everything, we have to give our life, regardless of what, because what we're seeking is self-determination, which is the ultimate justice for the Timorese people. So when in 1990 we voted for independence, that notion of forgiveness is already there because it's been brought up with us. We mingle with the Indonesian side. And Indonesia is no longer that Indonesian, that authoritarian. It's a democratic Indonesia anymore. So for Timor-Leste, for the leadership, we'll have to help Indonesia to consolidate its democracy, which will benefit also Timor-Leste. And a lot of credit is being given to us, the Timorese. Yes, our leadership, they are very visionary. They told us not to demonize our adversaries, whether in Timor, whether here in Indonesia, whether in Australia. Yesterday I was chatting with Padino, and Padino was saying that sometimes when we demonstrate, we get really tense, but then if after that we get along with one another. So that is how it was. So when the independence came and our leaders decided to pursue the reconciliation process, it was not that as difficult as it is. Although the UN at the time had a serious crime unit, they wanted to bring all Indonesians that are responsible for the perpetrators of the tragedy in Timor-Leste to international court. The government decided that if UN want to do it, they can do it, but it's not the government, neither the people of Timor-Leste will pursue this kind of justice. That is from our side. But we have to give credit also to Indonesia, to the TNI, to Polri. Despite of the violence in 1999, they have accepted the independence of Timor-Leste. They accepted the result of our referendum. And Padino yesterday said that Indonesia had 4 presidents in 3 years. So TNI was the glue for us, many of us believe, for the unification of Indonesia. So that is, we have to give credit to that. Because Indonesia could have simply turned their back on us and said, like, there's no flight to Timor-Leste. There is no more land connection with Timor-Leste. So it's mutually beneficial. And now we are free. We are joining ASEAN next month. And we know that the dividend of peace is we are enjoying the dividend of peace and democracy and a good friendship with Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really inspiring. Oh, by the way, today is Indonesia's Armed Forces Day, so Selamat HUT TNI. Yeah. The next question is for Tengku Mahmud Malik. Tengku Mahmud used to be the Prime Minister for Gerakan Aceh Merdeka. That's when I first interviewed him, and today he is a wali of Aceh. So, Tengku, my question to you: since the signing of the peace agreement in 2005, Aceh appears to be peaceful. The peace has held, albeit I know that there are still many challenges. So, what has held this peace together? And also, I do not seem to have seen much, or if any, reports of revenge killings after the signing of the peace. It'd be great if you could give us some insight of that. So in your words, what lessons can be learned from Aceh?
Thank you. Thank you for Thank you. The conflict with Aceh in Indonesia is, there's a reason for that. I go back to the history. Aceh has been an independent country for a long time, more than 1,000 years. But subsequently, the European colonizer, first the Portuguese, then coming the Dutch, and also the British played a part to put Acehnese down in this region. And the result was a long war. It lasted about 70 years. Then came the Japanese. Then after that, we drove away the Japanese. The Dutch and with the help of the British, came back to their former colony, in the last East Indies, yeah, now Indonesia. And at the moment, Aceh already got independence because we drove away the Japanese forces. Because we were with the Dutch before, and then our brothers in other parts of Indonesia is fighting for the independence. At that time, Sukarno went to see our leaders in Aceh, asking help. That Aceh have the establishment of Indonesia with the guarantee, because Aceh is a Muslim state, that they will give the Muslim law in Aceh. And Aceh right away supported Indonesia. At the time, the leadership of Indonesia, President Sukarno and Hatta, was arrested by the Dutch, and the whole of territory in Indonesia except Aceh was occupied by the Dutch. So there was a debate internationally at that time. Those countries in the world who sided Indonesia, for example, India, Australia, and also Egypt, and as well as Yugoslavia. But on the side of the colonial power, they still oppose. And the UN set up a fact-finding commission to Aceh, and they found out, yes, Aceh is the recognized Indonesia, and the flag in Indonesia, the red white, is flying in Aceh, and so therefore there was a pressure on the international community to continue a dialogue between Indonesia and the Dutch in The Hague. As a result, Indonesia got the independence. But the problem after it got independent, there was a political move during President Sukarno. Aceh was integrated into the province of North Sumatra. So the Acehese leadership not happy about that, and the leadership came to see the leadership in Jakarta, informed that they are not happy to be part of North Sumatra, but the request is rejected. And therefore, at the time, the leadership in Aceh decided to rebel under the flag of Darul Islam, because at that time Indonesia was in turmoil. In West Java, there was a rebellion, Darul Islam, in South Sulawesi also, and Southwest Kalimantan. So we joined a strength, against the government. But finally, in the 60s, there was peace. Indeed, Aceh was given an autonomy area. But unfortunately, it is only in a piece of paper. They never implement it. Now in 1976, so yeah, we decided to ask for independence at that time. And this became an armed conflict, and it lasted for 30 years until the international community at that time urging us, as well as Indonesia, to settle the problem through dialogue. At first, there was dialogue in Geneva by Henry Lund Center. We achieved a lot of agreement actually, but in Aceh, problems still. We got so many military operations still going on. And that was during the government under Megawati. So the role of the government also very important. What is in their mind? If they want to compromise with us or not, see? So the agreement, and for the time being in Aceh, was shattered. We continued the war again. We tried to save it in Tokyo, also failure. And Aceh was closed for more than 2.5 years. Even the diplomats cannot go to Aceh at that time. But something happened. At that time, there was a catastrophe of earthquake and tsunami, which cost about 200,000 Achenese lives at that time. So um, the international committee uh, urged us to continue the dialogue because otherwise they cannot send humanitarian aid if we are still at war.
Well,
So,
Tengku, excuse, I think we have 2 more minutes, Tengku.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. So the thing is that we keep on dialogue in Helsinki, Finland. It just took about 6 months. We can settle it into the agreement, what you call it, MOU Helsinki until now. So there was an understanding of the government of Indonesia at that time under different president, President SBY and Pak Yusuf Kala. So they were instrument to continue the dialogue, and we agreed. So we signed the agreement, and thereby Aceh become very peaceful until today. We can hold it for 20 years. There's no more trouble in Aceh.
So, Tengku, the only one, the follow-up I would like to ask is that I hardly read any revenge attacks, and
Okay.
there were hardly any revenge attacks that happened, not that I could read anyway. So, was that the truth? I mean, is that what really happened, that there was hardly any revenge attacks after the peace agreement was signed, and that people just accepted the past for what it is and just
Yes.
moved in,
Yes.
just moved on?
Yes. Now, in every conflict, somehow ended with peace. This is a human nature, you see. But whenever what you ask for, you fight for, you can achieve it, even not 100%. There will be reconciliation, and we try to forget the past. Past we still remember, but we see ahead of us, in the future of us. And for us, if still Indonesia, I think it's much beneficial because Indonesia is a very big country. Uh, and for the Achenese, they can go anywhere in Indonesia for businesses and whatever. Others opportunities in the government, in every institution. So that is benefit for us.
Thank you, Tengku. My next question will be for. So, the next speaker will be Imam Ibra Moksir from Mindanao. The Muslim majority Bangsa Moro autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao was created in 2019 by a referendum that ratified a peace deal between Manila and the armed separatist Moro Islamic Liberation Front after decades of talks. Elections are scheduled for the 13th of October, but they have now been postponed. And it is hoped that the election will eventually take place. So, Imam, do you have any concerns over the postponement of the elections? Or what are the implications of that?
Thank you, Madam Mami. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you all. Well, the struggle of the Bangsamoro people in Mindanao, in southern Philippines, is long time ago. How many decades? Since from the very beginning, when I was elementary until 2000, I retired in the Philippine National Police as officers. Beginning from the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, Moro National Liberation Front, headed by Professor Nur Miswari, that there will be a peace accord during the time of late President Pedro Ramos, in which that the creation of the armed autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao until such that Professor Miswari is become the governor of the arm until he's designated as the southern, if not mistaken, is the southern chairman of the Southern Philippine Development Authority. And at the another negotiation of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, and there is a struggle. No, there is so many probably conflict between the Philippine government as well as the Manilip. That Ami mentioned that 2019 it was peace accord between the Moro Islamic Revolution Front as well as the Philippine government, and become the designated BARM minister is Halmorats. So now, I think this election is the first election of the Bangsamoro because of the TRO. It was issued by the Supreme Court that the postponement, the commission election postponed because of the preparation. So until such that there is the lifted of the TRO, so we cannot continue the election. So the question is, what is the implication? So maybe the more that delaying the democracy is you're delaying the right of the people, the right of the freedom of the Bangsamoro. So I think there will be a negative connotation or negative implication. Thank you.
Thank you, Imam. Okay. Thank you. And our last speaker here is Debbie Stoddart. She will speak on Burma. Myanmar's military junta launched a coup in February 2021, and they jailed Aung San Suu Kyi. And actually, nobody actually even knows where she is, or even if she is alive. There are more than 22,000 political prisoners who are still held. And so the military junta plans to hold the first phase of elections in this December. So Debbie, can you tell us in your own words, will this election bring about peace, or it will bring about further divisions and even the fighting will continue? Because right now the military junta controls less than 50% of the country. And this state has also enabled the proliferation of scam centers in Myanmar. The trafficking of narcotics have surged, and also illegal weapons. So Debbie, we will be really grateful for your insights.
The illegal junta's sham elections that are supposed to start on 28th of December will not bring peace. It actually, the preparation of the election has increased violence. So first thing we need to know about this election is, this sham election by this illegal junta, is that parties that won more than 90% of the seats in the 2015 and the 2020 elections have been outlawed. In fact, new rules were put in to make sure that these parties that won previous elections by a landslide cannot re-register. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is that the military junta has imposed martial law on 63 townships. These are mainly areas under resistance control. But if you look at the map, this is also the areas which have the highest number of civilian casualties from airstrikes, aerial attacks, paramotor attacks, drone attacks. So what we have seen now is that the number of armed clashes and attacks on civilians has risen dramatically to 1,000 incidents a month. That means today alone, there would have been 30 incidents. And the favorite target of the aerial attacks is schools, clinics, internally displaced persons camps. So we could already see that the junta has orchestrated this election, but more to try and get some type of legitimacy so that they can go to business as usual. But let's not forget, last year the military junta spent an estimated $5 billion in weapons, bombs, and ammunition. At the same time, the price of rice has increased by 400% within 4 years. So we are actually seeing a situation where 1/3 of the country is facing malnutrition and possible starvation because of the military junta. And they are trying to pressure and force people to vote for them. So we've already seen the fact that the military junta has actually authorized parties that they want to run in the election to carry weapons. They're actually saying, all of you who are participating in election, please carry guns to promote yourself, to promote or defend yourself. The other thing is that they brought in a new law allowing private foreign military security companies to operate in Myanmar. This is actually mainly Chinese companies from China, and they are going to be used as backup in trying to deal with the election, trying to make sure that the election goes through. But if I'm in Myanmar now, I will go to jail for 7 years. Because there's an election protection law that was enacted on 29th of July that actually jails people for a maximum of 7 years for disrupting the election by saying something. If you are involved in a disturbance around the election and someone dies, you will be sentenced to death. If you destroy or seen to be suspected of destroying or any equipment for the election, you could be jailed for life. Already, 40 people have been charged, some in absentia, for disrupting the election. And the first victim, a man from Taunji, who pointed out on Facebook that the junta should look at controlling crime before they collect votes. He went to jail for 7 years. He was sentenced just a few weeks ago. So I think we know very clearly one of the things that what's happening in Myanmar is the reconciliation is happening on the ground. On the ground between groups that used to fight with each other, between groups that discriminated against each other because of a very strong divide and rule policy inherited from the British and perpetuated by successive military regimes. But if we look at whether an election will create some kind of peace and reconciliation in this situation, no. And I wanted to also raise something from a feminist gender lens and also from economics and transitional justice. If we are going to have, when you talk about the man in Aceh who lost his son, and when Aceh was free, we asked, do you want justice? And he said no. Now, I was in Aceh 6 weeks ago, in Banda Aceh, Loksumawe, and PD. And I speak to the van driver. So I love speaking to taxi driver and van driver because they tell you a lot of interesting things that you won't hear from the media. And I said, oh, and this is about my third or fourth time in Aceh. And he said, how do you like Aceh? I said, it's beautiful. People are great. It's a gorgeous place. Food is amazing. And I'm so happy because I remember when I hosted GAM representatives in my office in Bangkok, when I did a lot of activism to support Aceh. So it's nice to come back to Aceh and see it's doing well. And he said, well, we are free, but we don't have economic development. So we can already see that if we really talk about reconciliation, we have to also understand there has to be transitional justice, and part of that includes reparations and economic development to repair the harm that was done by conflict and repression. Otherwise, communities are going to be stuck there. And speaking of gender, I remember 20 years ago hosting a side event at the UN in Geneva for women from Timor-Leste and women and girls from Aceh who had been sexually violated by the TNI. And there were Indonesian diplomats coming to try and disrupt the meeting. That's why I'm the chair, so I told them off and said, if you want to speak, you are a government, go and make your own side event and I'll come and attend. But what is very clear in this picture is that when deals are done, peace agreements are made, when peace ceasefires are negotiated, there's very low priority for civilian protection, especially to prevent recurrence of sexual violence against women, girls, and even men and boys. So I think we do need to understand that if we really want reconciliation, firstly, we have to understand there is an economic aspect. We have to understand that there is a gender aspect. We cannot have reconciliation when people are still acting with impunity, where there is a threat of recurrence of sexual violence and other serious crimes against the population.
Thank you, Debbie, for the great insights. Thank you. Okay, we will now move to the discussants. I would now call upon Ronaldo from Belum Foundation. There are 3 discussants, so if you could just ask your questions and then the panel.
Thank you for the time, and thanks for the, all of the panelists which already share your experience and all of your insight to us. We are from local non-governmental organization which work closely to the community in a rural level, so we will come with our experience from the rural level. We know that in 2001, under the transitional administration, UN and transitional administration was create or established one commission, Truth and Reconciliation, to collect all of the information about the human rights violations, which occurred in around 1974 up to 1999. And
is this for Timor-Leste?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And since 2018, the President, His Excellency Senor Ramos Horta, also oriented to the and engaged to the all community, all development partner, especially for civil society and others, to do a reconciliation for the Timorese people, especially for the Timorese people who live in the Indonesian right now. They all have lost. They lost their rights in Indonesian. Like they have no land. They left their land in East Timor. Those are some of the people who involved directly to the are killing people from independence from the Independence Party, which happened in around in 1999. My question is, to what extent the government of Timor-Leste are doing reconciliation for those community, those people in among the Timorese people living in the East Timor, and also for Timorese people who live in Indonesia. And to what extent, as Ms. Debbie said, that until right now, the reconciliation is only happening in the ground level. But in the leaders, there is no reconciliation until right now. So to what extent the reconciliation for the leaders, political parties, leaders who, as we can say, they are from their word, their attitude raised up the a lot of human rights violations since in 1974. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The next discussion will be Fairosa from Maradeka.
Good afternoon. My name is Farusa from Maradeka, based in the Philippines, in the BARM also. I believe reconciliation often begins with a strong leadership and shared commitment. But we also know that political will can fade over times as new generation grow up who did not personally experience the pain of the conflict. Like I myself didn't really um, uh, see the struggle of the MILF in the barn. So the sense of the urgency to sustain peace can weaken. So my question is, how can we sustain reconciliation over time, ensuring that peace building remains alive in people's values, institutions, and everyday interactions, even when political momentum slows or memories of conflict begin to fade? Thank you.
Thank you. And the third discussion is from Wahid Institute, uh, Mas Libasu Takwa.
Thank you so much. I am Liba Sutakwa. I'm from the Wahid Institute, initiated by the late President Abdurrahman Wahid. Um, yeah, I face two side of coins here because I listen about the agreement that met by Timor-Leste and Aceh, and also uh, maybe a long process yet. But you know, we must recognize the limit and challenges of the state. So, as civil society organizations experiencing intersection of religion, peace building, and interfaith dialogue, I really believe the role of civil society in the ASEAN context. So, uh, on your perspective, if we can say that if we can say that the role of civil society in the ASEAN is more than we can expect it, uh, how can Southeast Asia's experience further institutionalize the role of civil society, particularly religious or interfaith actors within formal reconciliation mechanisms? So, because we believe that many of civil society actors involved in a very important role in addressing violence, including by the states. But how can we make that possible in this kind of ASEAN mechanism in a formal way? Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ambassador Nelson, would you like to take the first question? And I think the second question can be answered by Imam. And the third question, you know, maybe 1 minute from Debbie and 1 minute from Tengku. Thank you.
Thank you. I was a little bit lost with my counterpart's question, but I'll try to answer it. I think the 2028, the approach by the president was to give opportunities for those Timorese that have decided to be Indonesian, whether they still would like to come to Timor-Leste, that we should provide all the facilities so that they can exercise their rights as in our constitution to come to Timor-Leste. As for our leadership, we should not get confused between political differences and issues that in the 75 or in the 74. Yes, we do have a lot of political differences in our democracy. But just look at the statistics, it says it all. We are the freest country in Southeast Asia in terms of media-wise. In terms of our democracy index, we are very high. I think in the Asian, we're second to Malaysia. Life expectancy increased dramatically in Timor-Leste. From 60 now we are into 71 to 72. We got rid of malaria on the island. So these are the dividends of our reconciliation. These are the dividends of peace that we have in Timor-Leste. So yes, democracy, we must have political differences. And each and every one of us know that it was very expensive for Timor-Leste to have our democracy. Let's protect it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The question from the Baradika. In every negotiation and conflict, we have peace in Philippines, particularly in the Bangsamoro context. Is the road crisis has always been a crisis of trust. Always trust between the two groups, the government, Philippine government, as well as the MNLF or the Bangsamoro people will put trust between the two groups. You cannot sustain without continued dialogue, continue stability between the two groups. For example, the people, Bangsamoro people in Mindanao, particularly the Bangsamoro Association Muslim Mindanao, always full trust to the government. But what I recommend is the transparency, the support of the government, avoiding politicizing. No? The problem now, if the national government will politicizing and putting those who are, for example, the leadership by control by the national government, and there is no transparency, you cannot sustain the peaceful. You cannot sustain the problem, or to avoid so-called peaceful negotiation. So transparency is very important.
Thank you, Imam. We shall remember that. Transparency is very important. Okay, 1 minute to Tengku on how ASEAN can build on reconciliation and strengthening civil society in bringing about reconciliation and peace.
Yeah. The role of civil society during the Aceh conflict is really remarkable. At the heart of the conflict, so many atrocities being conducted by the TNI in Aceh, like arrests without justification, beating, and then also sexual harassment to the people. They're burning the houses, things like that, And so civil society, not only in Aceh, fortunately in the whole of Indonesia, they are sympathized to the Acehnese, and they know what happened in Aceh, and they highlighted these events, not only in Indonesia, but throughout the world. And also, I appreciate at that time, though we are in conflict with the government of Indonesia, but the democracy in Indonesia is working at that time. So the role of our activities of the civil society in Indonesia is without hindrance from the government. And then regarding development, yes, now we have peace in Aceh for 20 years. Peace is sustained already. What development, we still lagging, I have to admit that. But we are in the process of bringing up the economy of Acehnese. One thing, what happened, during the tsunami, many of the cream of the Acehnese population, they perish. In the government, in the business sector, so what left now is what left now is that we going to increase their capacity, and of course it will take time, but we have been supported by the government of Indonesia as well, and the Acehnese also knew what is the problem, and they want to improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tengku. So civil society has played a huge role in fostering peace. So Debbie.
Okay, first, Fairoza, I think we need to, people want to say, let's forget about the past and move on, but memorialization is incredibly important, and also strengthening peace education and a culture of peace in the society. And that means equality and mutual respect, regardless of gender, regardless of ethnicity, religion, etc. And also supporting groups like Belun that are working for transitional justice. That's so critical. And we must remember that when there's systematic repression and armed conflict, there are hidden people who suffer, like the people isolated in Indonesia who lost their rights, like stateless people, people who are still migrants, people who have been forgotten in the picture, and we need to make sure there's inclusion. But having said that, When we talk about reconciliation, I know, I personally experience that women and youth are our biggest hope. Um, we just launched the Inclusive Federal Economic Policy, where 75% of the participants were under the age of 34. Many of them were in their 20s. Women were, more than 60% of the participants were women. We had LGBT, we had Rohingya, we had persons with disabilities. We had young people in active conflict zones. And together, they drafted 400 economic policy recommendations across 8 sectors to design the future economy of Burma after the coup is over. That is the kind of reconciliation that has been happening on the ground regardless of their circumstances. That's the power of young people and the power of women. And we have to have them in the room if we're ever going to have a hope of multi-sectoral, intersectional reconciliation, preventing recurrence of conflict and human rights violations. This is how we have to sustain ASEAN, sustain our communities.
Thank you, Debbie. Youth and women are our hope. So I would now open the questions to the public. I think we only have time for 2 questions. So if anyone, please put up your hand and please keep the questions short so that we can have a good insights from the speakers. Anybody? Silakan.
Okay, thank you for opportunity. I'm Gaspar Afonso from Timor-Leste. I won office with Mr. Nelson. I'm want to make just comment here, but I'm very sad. But the Asia Forum people this year not give opportunity for disability sector. But we talk inclusive and fraternity. I don't look the other country representative from disability, like included all my friends in Indonesia, not participate this event. Why? Just talk inclusive, just talk human fraternity. I don't believe. Why don't give opportunity for us? Huh? But talk human right in the world, in the Asia. Why don't give opportunity for all disability to participate or to involve in the panelists? Still discrimination for myself and for my all disability in the world, in the Asia. I think that's all, but next event, don't forget to involve directly all disability to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder, a very timely reminder. Thank you. Adrian? Okay. Keep it short, then we can come back to you. Okay, Adrian, the clock is ticking.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the inspiration. I agree with the comment that we should leave no one behind. Part of my work is on migrants and refugees, and I've helped refugees from Aceh in Kuala Lumpur before, and also different parts of the different countries. There's one place in Thailand called Patani that is often left out from conversations. They also gain their inspiration from the struggle in Aceh, Mindanao, and also Timor-Leste. So there's still armed conflict going there, and I was wondering what legally binding mechanism can ASEAN do to use all these learnings and make sure that armed conflict doesn't happen again. If it happens, we have the tools to respond. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So Thank you. So maybe, I don't know, Ambassador Nelson, would you like to take that question?
As for the comment of my friend from the office, I will pass that to Padino so that next year we don't forget to include them. As for Pattaya, obviously that for Timor-Leste we see that as an internal issue of Thailand, and there is a very clear role in ASEAN that's a non-interference. But for us, we are here because our beliefs in democracy and human rights. It is obviously that if we do not, we are going to become member of ASEAN. We will respect all the rules, but we also know how to approach the other side so that to find a peaceful settlement of differences in a peaceful way. Thank you.
Yeah, just very quickly, Tengku, would you like to say something? Just 1 minute.
In ASEAN, I think we are still have trouble areas in ASEAN, but through this forum, I think we can learn the experience from each other. First, why there's this conflict, and then we have this is very important for the leadership of the government as well as the movement. So, how to compromise? I mean, you have to be honest for that. Yeah, we have to very honest about that. We must have the willpower to settle the problem through dialogue. This is very important. And then we must consider what we can give and what we can take, because this is negotiation. Maybe you cannot get 100% of what you want, but you can get 80%. I think that's good enough, quite fair. For example, for like in Aceh, we got not independent because there was some difficulty with the international community for some reason actually. But we got special autonomy right in Aceh. And we have written agreement between the government of Indonesia and Aceh. How to government Aceh, it is, we Aceh who decide. And for example, about wealth, 70% for the Aceh, 30% for the central government. So this is part of the deal. So we think we are quite satisfied, and I think the government of Indonesia also quite satisfied for that.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe
Actually, I'd like to reply to I just wanted to reply to our friend from Wahid Institute, the question about ASEAN formalizing a space or institutionalizing civil society. Actually, you don't have to formalize a space for us. Just stop blacklisting and harassing us. Let us just get on with our work. Don't put barriers in this way. Don't threaten us. Don't blacklist us. I've been banned from a couple of countries already because I'm a very dangerous threat to national security. My mouth is more dangerous than a nuclear bomb, apparently. So I think we have to say, yeah, we don't just ask you to formalize or institutionalize civil society. Just let us do our job. That's one thing. Let us just do our job. And ASEAN, so far as when it comes to Myanmar, ASEAN has actually contributed to the conflict. First thing, when young people went on the street protesting peacefully and called for responsibility to protect, called for ASEAN to make a political solution, ASEAN was very slow. Then those people who were peacefully protesting saw their friends getting shot dead in front of them. They were dragged off and beaten up. One of my friends, they threw a grenade at him, and his leg was so mangled that when the medics went to attend to him, the military came and arrested him and the medics, and he died in custody. The medics were saying that they have to amputate, But the military not just kills first responders. In this case, they killed him. They refused to let them treat the medics to let them treat him. So when this happens to you, the young people see there's no option. They join the armed struggle. They either they surrender or they join the armed struggle. It's very hard to stay in the peace movement when you are being shot and tortured. So this is the thing that ASEAN did. And the best thing now, the military junta started forcibly conscripting young people. So if you are a man or a woman between the age of 18 and 35, you could be forced to join the army. And if you run away, your parents pay the price. There's already 70,000 men mostly, but now also women, who have been conscripted and already trained and thrown into the battlefield. ASEAN countries like Thailand and Malaysia are deporting Myanmar people back to the hands of the military, and these young people are being forced to join the army. So where the hell is our 5-point consensus? Reduce conflict, but we will send you more soldiers for you to forcibly conscript. So when the 5-point consensus was finally brought about, so this is one thing. There was a coup on the 1st of February 2021. ASEAN, brother, don't do like that lah. Not nice. No, it's very sad. Oh no, don't do this. But the military dictator said, by April, everything will be solved. I will be in control. These people are protesting, it'll go away. So ASEAN waited until April. And then April came and they went like, oh, bloody hell. The whole country is protesting. This is getting worse. We have to do something. They started launching airstrikes. Quick, let's have a meeting. Brunei said, I'm the chair, but I don't know how to do this. So Jakarta said, okay, we're going to have the meeting here in Jakarta. Let's have the 5-point consensus. 5-point consensus didn't say anything about releasing political prisoners. It was focused on reducing conflict. In April 2021, there were 200 incidents of armed attacks and attacks on civilians in that month. Now it's 1,000. So how successful is our 5-point consensus? That is why when people say, let's make space in ASEAN for civil society, I say, hey, just don't blacklist us. Just let us get on with the work. Stop sending people, stop deporting people to become forced conscripts. Stop harassing stateless people who are fleeing the conflict. Don't exploit them. Let us give them some civilian protection. They don't have civilian protection in Myanmar. That's just the basic thing. So I think when we talk about reconciliation, the people that I can't forgive is the military junta and ASEAN. I'm sorry. I love ASEAN. I love the people of ASEAN. I'm going to continue working with civil society, but deep down inside, even the young people in Burma say, Debbie, why are you still working on ASEAN?
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie, for the very spirited response. And if I may add, Myanmar is actually very close to us. It's not hundreds of kilometers away from us. Because of the military coup, there has been a proliferation of scam centers. Thousands and thousands of people all over the world, including Indonesians, Malaysians, Philippines, Thai, from China, all over the world have been trafficked into those, into the scam centers. So that's why Myanmar actually matters for all of us. There is also a surge in narcotics that is coming out of Myanmar to the entire Southeast Asia. You only have to talk to the Indonesian Narcotics Agency and they can tell you. And thirdly, there is also a proliferation of arms and weapons coming out of Myanmar. And that will only deepen and prolong conflict also in Southeast Asia. So I hope anyone sitting in here listening to Debbie's very, very passionate plea, I hope you take back and remember what she said. So with that, just one last question here. I've been told that I can take one more question. So, yeah. Okay. So I would like to thank a very distinguished panel for a very wonderful session. It's also very inspiring because it's been, the birth of a new society is always painful. And thank you, Tengku, for expressing your appreciation for the role of civil society, because many of those people in civil society paid a very high price for that. And I think you can see a very fine example here in Debbie. So thank you, you represent the civil society. And thank you everyone who made your time today to listen to this. And with that, I hand back over to Rachel. Thank you, terima
Thank
kasih.
you. So thank you to all participants for joining the last session of the ASEAN 8 Room. Before that, we kindly invite all the panelists to remain on stage and stand up for a group photo. But as a token of appreciation from Dr. Dino Patijal and FPCI, we would like to present a souvenir to each of the panelists that will be given by the PIC session.